Hello and welcome back. To install Azure AD Connect tool, you need to verify your Azure in Azure the domain name so that the objects can be synced from Azure to your on-premises. And also when you're trying to install AD Connect tool, your server must be at least a member server and must be at least 2008 or 2 or later operating system. And also make sure you use the AD Connect latest tool. Also, if you're trying to use more than 100k objects, then go for the full SQL installation. Otherwise, it's going to install with the default SQL Express installation. Let's jump into the demonstration. If you just come to Azure portal and go to Azure Active Directory, and you see here if it is a sync is enabled, or if you install AD Connect, you would be getting this status as sync is enabled, but in our case it's not enabled. And currently all the users should be logged in with username at paddylearninginmylab.onmicrosoft.com. And also I have the Azure P2 license, as at least the P1 is required for syncing up your on-premises objects. I need to verify my custom domain name. For that I need to just go to custom domain names and click here to add your custom domain name. I own a domain name called learninmylab.com. It means that this would be, in a real world, this would be your company a website or company name, so that the users will be logging with username at learninmylab.com. So in your case, username at your company name.com or maybe whatever it is. So in my case, it's the simple domain name which I bought it just to demonstrate this entire demo. So click on add. So what would happen is it actually added, and it is requesting us to create either txt record or mx record, so that it will verify in the GoDaddy or wherever you have the domain name, and it will validate that, hey, you own this domain, so that I'm gonna create some kind of AD records. That's how Microsoft is gonna work. So since I bought it in GoDaddy, I'm going to open in GoDaddy. I did logged into GoDaddy. If you see here, this is my domain name, and I'm into DNS management. So it's pretty easy that just have to click on add, and then whatever the record it is showing. So here, for example, you want to verify with the name of txt format. Simply choose here the txt and give the host name as this, with the value of destination, which is pointing this value, and hourly is the 3600 is nothing but 1 hour. So click and save. That's been added. And if you want to add one more record, for example mx record, in this case you can also do very similar, like you can give alias as the host name as @. So in my case mx @, and here it's going to pointing to the specific value. Copy, paste it, and priority is here. It says that the highest priority 32767, which I'm going to give here, and click and save. So once you give these details, you might have to wait for at least officially it says that 24 hours, but mostly if your DNS works properly, top companies like GoDaddy and Namecheap, all these can pull your DNS record within 1 hour time. So I would wait for at least 15 to 20 minutes to 1 hour between, and I'll click on verify. I'm just trying to verify now. I'll just wait for 5 to 10 minutes time. So verification is done, looks like. And you see here, it's not yet make as a primary. So I just wanted to show you now, and the post that it also says that you can download AD Connect and sync up. So I'm not going to do that anything now. Instead I'll simply just close this window, whatever it is coming here, and you see here it's just both are verified now, but it's not it make as the primary. If you see here, that means the users, when you make as a primary, these user names will change to actual domain name. So if I just go back here to the domains, my custom domain, and I can make here as learning my learninginmylab.com as my primary so that it becomes as a primary. Now I can change my user accounts to configure to log in with that UPN, or they can even use any of them. So in this case, the user ID can be instead of lengthy name, so I can give here the verified domain name. So I can simply give here learninmylab.com as the name. I can simply save so that user information gets changed profile. And similarly, I can do for other user accounts also. See, now it has changed. Similarly for David, I can do. So these things you can actually change it with the help of PowerShell. If you want to do it, you can do it from the PowerShell also. So in my case, the last account, all the accounts has been changed now so that users can log in either with the learninmylab.com or with the existing .com. So in my case it looks good, and if you see here learninmylab.com, this was created if the source is Microsoft account. So that means I signed up with this account. This account is coming from my Microsoft account, so I created a Microsoft account with this username, and this is the global admin event. If you see here the roles, now I'm going to install the AD Connect on local machine. I can connect from my local machine to my domain controller by just clicking on this, and I'm able to connect to my domain controller, and the computer name is this, and the IP address is configured as this, and the current system role is domain controller. So if I just open up my Active Directory users and computer and navigate to the users under USC, I have multiple AD sites which represents my business name, and also multiple user accounts are configured. If I click on randomly any of the user account, I can see that the user email ID is this, and the account name is configured to log in with @root.local. But the problem is here in this design, the root.local is not a routable domain. That means the user ID should be jlrobinson@learninmylab.com should be there. So that's your company name.com. But in this case, it's the @root.local. So you can't log in with this. So what we have to do is, as a next step, we need to change the UPN name by adding another UPN name. So users can use learninmylab.com, that's your company .com, or maybe the username at domainname.com can be used. So to do that, cancel this for now and just go to administrative tools from the start here, and you can open up Active Directory domains and trust. Once this is open, just maximize and select the Active Directory domains and trust, not your domain name or your forest name. So just go here, the top one, and right click and go to the properties, and here you can add your what of the domain names or the UPN name suffix you want to add. For example, I want to add here learninmylab.com, which is a domain name which I have verified in Microsoft Azure portal. If you see here under custom domains, I have verified this, so I'm just going to add this. So by doing this, what would happen is my all users, for example, if I just go to any of the user account, to the properties, for example, to this user account, I will be getting another UPN name. That's a domain name. So I get here my username at learninmylab.com also. So by adding that UPN name, users can also log in either with the root.local or maybe learninmylab.com. They can use it. So our AD Connect to work, it needs a routable name. So in this case, the domain name would be the learninmylab.com, which we have already verified in Azure portal. So to we have to change this learninmylab.com for all the users. Either if just use the advanced features, and if just filter with that whatever the groups, you can do that. For example, I can go to the properties of this and simply set my UPN name from here as just the leninmylab.com as the right click and do that, or I can use some of the script. Let's try to open the script. Instead of you run it, you just run with the script name. So you can or you can double click to run with the PowerShell so that this GUI would be open up. So in this GUI PowerShell script, you can choose the new UPN name here. In this case, leninmylab.com, and you can recursively you can pull all the list of OUs which are available. So in my case, I wanted to make it for everyone, so I can change here by doing this change UPN, or if I'm explicitly choosing for any of the OU, I can choose here. I do have the option. For example, here I just wanted to go for maybe Indiana, or maybe here any of the OUs, Florida or something like that. So in my case, I wanted to change for everyone. So I'll simply select the top level, click on change UPNs. This would actually in the background change it, and you would be getting the log on how the activity is going on. So if you see here the log, it's going on still. So it has been changed from the old value to the new value for almost all the users. That's good. And if I can open up any of the used account again, but just refresh, make sure that, and if I just go in properties, I should be able to see here at the rate leninmylab.com. I'm able to see that. If you have the users with the email ID also to be changed, definitely there is another script that needs to be changed. But in our case, we just wanted to change the UPN name, so we have done that. So any of the random users, now we do have UPN is set to leninmylab.com. This PowerShell interactive script can be downloaded from TechNet Gallery. I will also sharing the script as well as the URL within this lecture. So far we have achieved domain verification and also changing the UPN name. Now it's time to install Azure AD Connector. To do that, we can go and download the AD Connect from, if you just go to the home page of your Azure Active Directory, you do have here option to download directly by clicking here. It will actually go to download section, or you simply go and search it so that you can download that, or you can go to this URL. So I'm going to download that. So I have downloaded and copied to my one of the member server. So in your case, you can use a member server, or you can also install a domain controller. It's recommended to use on one of the member server. Since it's a lab, I'm going to install on my domain controller, which will not be a big deal for me. But if this is the case, you might have to install on your member server. So it's a straightforward installation. I can agree the terms and conditions, and now if you're choosing the Express installation, with the Express installation, it will not prompt you to choose any of the options. Instead, it will configure for you a direct configuration with the password hash synchronization, and it will sync also will be initiated automatically post to the installation. But if you configure as customization, that would actually gives you an option. For example, you can choose the existing SQL Server. This is where the full SQL Server can be used. If you are having more than 100k user objects or the objects, then you can choose the full version of the SQL. Similarly, you can also specify the custom path of where Azure AD Sync folder to be installed. Also, you can choose the custom or existing service accounts. So in my case, I'm just choosing the custom option with the default, but if you see the user options will change, it's going to actually install all the required pre-requirements. So in my case, it takes some time. Now, if you see here in the custom configuration, since we have taken, now I get the option like you want to use the password hash synchronization or pass-through authentication, also the federation authentication option. If you remember the authentication methods which we talked, password hash synchronization or PHS with actually authentication will not be redirected to on-premises. So purely cloud only, whereas the pass-through authentication or federation will be redirected to your on-premises authentication service. So in our case, I'm actually going with the hash synchronization, and also I wanted to enable the single sign-on. If you see here, if I just enable here, another option is coming up. So single sign-on means the hybrid Azure AD join machines will be getting the benefit of any of the cloud-based applications also can log in without any username and password to be entered, because those devices are already joined into Azure AD. So that would be added advantage. So I'm just choosing. If you're trying to understand more about what all these options, you can just point to the help symbol. It gives you more information on what it means. And I'm just clicking on next. And this is where it's going to ask you for the global administrative credentials of your tenant. So in my case, if I just go to my portal.azure.com, I can see here I have a user account called PaddyMaddy at learninmylab.com, and this account is from Azure AD, and this user is a global admin. So that's a role has been assigned as a global admin also. So I can use this account. I will be entering the global admin account details and clicking on next, so that it goes further with the installation, and then it's asking for my local active directory a normal user account details. If you have already created, you can use that. So in my case, I have already created a domain user account called AAD user just for the syncing purpose. So I just created this account, and if you see the member of, it's a domain users only. There's no special permissions for this account. So I would be giving that AAD user account, which is in this case the AAD user at root.local, and give the password. Now you see here, you should get the tick box here. So once you get the tick mark, you can actually move further with the clicking on next. That would actually go and fetch the details from your local active directory. Once that's done, you are actually going to get here your verified domain. So in your case, root.local is not yet verified. That's why it's showing that UPN name must be like username at contest.com. So in our case, learning my lab is the a domain which we have shown here, is the fully verified account. So that's a domain which we added in your Azure Active Directory domains, right? So that's good. And if you see here, what would happen is there's something called a anchor object. A later point it will be used, but for now, the users will be using some attribute to sign in to the Active Directory. So what is that? So in our case, I'm going to choose the user principal name. So you do have multiple options to choose, like different attributes if you want to use like email or custom attribute numbers. So in our case, I'm just ignoring and using most of the persons, like 99.49s. People will use UPN name because that's how the users will sign in. So I would go with the UPN name in this case. So I would just select user principal name. So that's my username at UPN name. So if you don't have already changed all the user accounts with the UPN name with your company name.com, then it's a problem. So in my case, I have already selected and verified. Now this is the first layer of the filtering. Remember in the presentation we can talk about the first layer of the filter would be domain and OU. So where you can you want to filter with a specific example. Maybe you want to just filter maybe a California, you can filter, or you want to entire DC, you can do that. So this is a kind of filter so that these objects can be synced to Azure AD, to your cloud. If you don't want to sync everything, you have the option. So this is the first layer, what you have. So in my case, I'm taking everything to be synced up. And if you need to get more information, you can go through that specific help question marks. Now you see here the unique identity for users. So this is nothing but if you have email IDs, example, also configure like Office 365 specific, then you would be choosing the mail attribute for the another layer of the filtering, so that can be identified your sync options with a proper unique ID or specific to that specific attribute. So post to this, you also have here a group based filtering, like let's say you are doing maybe in a POC. So in that situation you would create another OU. Here for example, here you're trying to filter everything, but you don't want everything to be in a filter, uh, but you want to have few of the test users to be part of one of the AD group, and you can give here the user account details. So that means the user group details, so that the user group will be next layer of the filtering. Now this is the by default options, like if you see here exchange, we don't have any exchange, so those are grayed out, and we did already taken as the password hash through, that's a PHS option. That's why it has been already ticked up. If you want to write back, you can do that, and we would be doing later point, but I wanted to go with the default options, and then we can come back. And if you need more information, always you can click on the help button, so that you get that specific help whatever you're trying to look. For example, device write back is the option which will gives you written of the information also. Let's see here, you have the directory extension attribute sync also can be possible. Now post to this, I would just click on next. I would like to take even password write back also, and then click on next, and the next option would be enable a single sign-on option, because we did selected the single sign-on, so it needs to validate the domain admin account. So I'm just entering the my domain admin account, so that it just creates some kind of internal information, so that it will configure for you the single sign-on option. So once this is done, you can by taking that checkbox, it does the automatic sync. If you don't take the checkbox, you can start the manual sync, but in our case we wanted to sync also to be done. I don't want to go for a staging mode. So when I say staging mode, like you wanted to configure one more AAD Connect server, then you would be going for the staging mode. But normally if this is the first server, so I just wanted to go for the complete one. If you see here the AAD from my Azure portal, I'll show you once again from the Azure Active Directory and the users, and you see here there are only few user accounts, and the source of the user accounts are Azure Active Directory. And also if you see here any of the devices, there's no devices, as well as the sync, that's a PHS is not enabled, AAD Connect is not enabled, so SSO is not enabled, nothing was configured. So post this installation, when I click on install, it's going to actually configure for us everything, and then all the objects will sync to Azure AD. You see here some kind of health specific agent, it's getting installed, so that becomes as a service. And also if you see here, I also got the Azure AD Connect specific shortcut, also got it. So that means it's almost done the configuration part. This gives the complete information on installation, so the configuration of the installation is completed. So if I want to configure later point, I can do it by clicking on the Azure AD Connect. But if you see here, or if you read it here, there is an attribute called MSAD, MSDS consistency good ID. So this is the anchor attribute. That means with this attribute it's going to sync up. And also if you see here the recommendation, Azure Active Directory specific or the Active Directory specific recycle bin is not configured, so they are giving the article to go through it here and configure that specific one, which is one of the pre-requirement. I have not done because that's just the warning if you see here. And also single sign-on is configured, and you need to configure the group policy. So in our next video we would be configuring group policy. Stay tuned for that, so that the the configuration of that 4 different URLs can be configured in your local group policy so that the users can log in from the intranet zone. So that means they no need to enter any additional username and password to access the applications that are published in Azure AD, or maybe register with the Azure AD, or maybe software as a service specific applications which are coming from your Azure AD based. So that's what we're going to do it now. So for now, I would click on this specific link, and I would like to show you that these are the URLs which we need to configure in the group policy, and all that configuration uh, for the how to log on specific values, all that the value should be configured for one. All that will be discussed in the upcoming lecture. If you're trying to configure here with the group policy preferences also, you can do that. So I'll just exit, and that would actually installation is completed. Now I wanted to show you the high level of the synchronization services. If you see here, it's already doing some kind of sync process, and 240 or 1274 different objects got synced up. All that information is coming for me, but I just wanted to show you more information, like it has the full export and import, and also other options. But if you just go back to the connections, this is a key here. There are two connections, or the connectors we would actually say. So the first one would be the local AD connector, other one would be the Azure AD Connect. So if I just go to this local AD, first time you get this specific window, but if you just go to the next time, it won't ask you. And if you see here, the account which we have given, AAD user account, that was using to get the information from the Azure from the Active Directory. Now from the Azure AD, if you see here, as we discussed in the PPT, there should be a specific account called sync underscore the computer account which we have talked about. So that's a computer account was automatically created, and it is using for the syncing purpose. So if you just go to your Azure Active Directory, normal Active Directory under computers, you have that computer account. So once you enable that, it gets automatically configured for you as the Azure AD Association account. So this is the account which is using. So these are the two key things, and these are the metaverse designer is the rules configuration specific. With that help, it actually pulls the information, and you can also do the additional configuration also. So now the sync process is almost completed. So if I just refresh here, now the disable all these there, if after refreshing it gets enabled, and you see here less than 1 hour back it has already synced, and password hash sync is enabled, sync status is enabled, all that has been configured. And if you just go to the users, you would normally get multiple user accounts also. So if I try to filter with few of the accounts so that I can show you in the source of the accounts, you see all these are coming from the Active Directory. If I load more and more, I'm actually getting it. And if you see the source, most of them are from the Windows Server 80. But now if you see the Daniel account, it's just from the Azure AD, because we just created this one before we do the demo. So that's how the sync processes happen, and we are able to see all the accounts, and I can do the reset, I can do all this. But remember that we need to configure the licensing also post to the sync, otherwise otherwise it doesn't work. Like if you try to demonstrate maybe a single sign-on, or maybe all that, it doesn't work. Also you need to configure the location. For example, the user account is in this case the United States, so you need to configure those under settings, this specific United States configuration to be configured. Also other configuration, if it is not there, you must have to configure, otherwise you don't get the benefit of out of it. So that concludes how to configure as the high level configuration. I hope this is